This is the Rebel Scum Podcast. Available in video on YouTube and audio wherever you listen to your podcasts. Every week, Brock and James talk the latest rumors, news, and theories from a galaxy far, far away. Support us on Patreon for exclusive offers and join the Star Wars discussion. Patreon.com/RebelScumPodcast. Here are your hosts, Brock and James.
You're always scum. Rebel Scum.
Rebel Scum Podcast. I'm Brock. This is James. And unfortunately, Andrew's here as well. Episode 269. Feeling fine.
He's gone.
He's gone.
Get out of here.
It's a Christmas miracle. Oh. Get away from me. Anyways.
Get out of here.
Hello, gentlemen. What day is this actually going to be? We're live, so right now, Merry Christmas.
No,
Merry
Happy Life
Christmas.
Day.
It's Wednesday the 28th right now.
Live. Oh, right. I don't know how the show works.
No, it says it's live. We're not live. We're rolling.
Live to tape. A
Yeah.
little behind the scenes jargon.
Like the 80s.
Hello and welcome to Rebel Scum Podcast, where we talk about Star Wars. What are we talking about Star Wars today, James?
We're talking about Andrew's least favorite movie on Earth. It's The Last Jedi. Andrew hates it. We are going to talk Last Jedi. It's been 5 years since we saw this movie in the theater. Just over 5 years, technically, but we thought this would be a fun time to talk about it. And I remember, Brock, we were in the theater together watching it, and you were ecstatic. It was your favorite Star Wars you'd ever seen.
Yeah.
I sat beside Rob McDonald and my wife, Erin,
My life.
and I could tell you, Rob had a very polar opposite reaction to yours on that day. And then Andrew, I remember calling you being like, I don't know how you're going to react to this movie, and I don't want to tell you a thing about it. And then you obviously really liked it. So it would kind of almost be nice to have like Rob here to talk about what he doesn't like about it.
No.
Because you two absolutely love the movie, and I really like the movie. I don't love it necessarily. I like it on the same level I like all the other Star Wars movies except for Ewoks. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, Brock, on episode 269.
Yeah. I rewatched it recently. Do you guys rewatch it, or are you just going off muscle memories?
I think the last time I saw it was like April.
Oh.
I saw it in the theater last. No, I watched it. I think I watched it like annually. I have watched it within the last 2 months. I've watched it.
It's I discovered when I got a Google Chromecast thing, like the newer version that's basically a ripoff of Fire Stick. And the one good thing about it is it has all my bought, like back in the day when we were transferring from Blu-ray to just streaming, and you would buy the occasional movie on like Google or whatever. So my library is there. And Last Jedi is the last Star Wars movie I probably actually purchased with money that was, like I don't think I probably streamed everything else. Like I haven't watched Last Jedi in a long time. So I was like, oh, there it is. Rewatched this movie, loved it. No big spoiler there, but I'm like, this is a good movie. Like this is a very good movie on so many levels. Is it a perfect Star Wars movie? I don't know, but I think Rian Johnson had the right idea. I think nobody wanted to let him follow through, which makes the success of his Knives Out series so much more glorious, because it's just if you just let him do what he wants to do, you'll probably get something good.
Well, he turned down episode 9, though. You can't forget that. He said
Right.
episode 9.
I forgot that detail. I forgot that was supposed to happen. Because I thought it was
I did too.
Colin, and then nobody, and then JJ. I totally forgot that they had asked him.
Yeah, and he said no, which kind of irks me even more with a lot of everything that went down after. It's like, you set everything up. Why won't you? I understand. He probably and that was before this movie came out, when everyone's childhood were ruined for a little while. There was like it was before all that. He turned it down. You gotta wonder what the world would be like if he accepted it. Honestly, man, it might be like after like a Lakers victory. Like LA might have burned to the ground if he would have taken 9 and they followed through with it after Last Jedi. Like frig, man. I think
well, if he didn't exist, then the bank and loan would never have allowed for anybody to open up a new shop, and that guy would be homeless, and the snow would be cornflakes.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about because when we saw it I can't believe it's been 5 years. Like we were at Star Wars Celebration almost 6 years ago for this movie. When we saw it 5 years ago, obviously you had that reaction. Andrew, you really liked it. You and Rob did the video like versus is it good, is it bad, whatever that was, because it was those reviews back then. That's what we did. But right afterwards, you're like, we need to do a Star Wars Renaissance podcast. Like we're in the Star Wars Renaissance. Star Wars is changing, blah, blah, blah. We did that show. We're all very excited about the future of Star Wars. And then no one else on the planet was. And it reverted back to go get your popcorn, kids. We're going to have a good time with some chocolate. So let's go back to that first viewing, maybe the first little while after, how much fun you had watching The Last Jedi and what you expected from Star Wars going forward. Because obviously, Andrew, you are the most disappointed in The Rise of Skywalker of all of us. So, what was it about The Last Jedi that really, pulled on your strings?
For me personally, it was, not to get, super sappy about it, but it was the whole idea of Luke catching up to Luke where I am, but then Luke moving ahead as a character. And basically all that means is, as a kid watching the original trilogy, I would look at Luke and I'd be like, wow, I want to be like him when I grow up. He's a really cool role model. And then now as an adult watching Last Jedi, it was the same thing. It was looking at this old man and saying, wow, look at that. I hope I get to make that kind of impact at the end of my life when I'm like that. So again, it was still like, I want to be like Luke. And I never expected that through line to follow through, and it did.
Brock?
I don't know. I think it was just it was fun because it's it wasn't really what you expected. We expected Luke Skywalker to be the glorious Jedi master we've dreamed of for the 30, 40 years. But it kept you kind of on your toes to an extent. It's not it's not like Andor where you're I don't know what's gonna happen next episode, but it was good. It was oh, this is kind of interesting. You can nitpick all the parts of the movie, but I'd argue the Battle of Crate is a really amazing battle scene, a really good conclusion to the movie, and it's aesthetically and visually it looks awesome. It's just man, that's cool. It's really, really good. I'd argue Rian Johnson's I have a scene. They're gonna have a showdown, and it's gonna be revealed to you that Luke isn't there the entire time, but who knows? But it's I love the idea of I said it before. It's the salt being red underneath. It's the whole buildup is to the fact that he's not leaving footprints, and you're whoa, it's just it's a nice obviously it doesn't go toe to toe with the ending of Empire Strikes Back, but it still has the same vibe, right? Luke being not helpful at all is similar to Yoda to an extent. And it's I think that's more interesting outside of yeah, it would be sweet to see a new Jedi Order, but the movies were never about that. The first movie said he tried, it failed. The New Republic, they tried and they failed. It's just it's a bummer because we expected success, but Star Wars needs some kind of opposition. Can they move past this? I think so. But it was I think Last Jedi was a move in the right direction. I think without Last Jedi, you don't have what we have now with Andor and Mandalorian, where as much as Mandalorian doesn't push the envelope, it's well, wouldn't it be fun if we did this? And then Andor is well, what if we took this a little bit more seriously than we usually do? So I don't think you make those moves because yes, the fans were divisive on this whole entire movie, but it's just He still made money. I don't know. It's not the highest Star Wars, right? Like, who is the highest earner in the Star Wars?
Is it Force Awakens or
Probably.
Phantom
No,
Menace?
it's Force Awakens. Force Awakens by a mile.
Yeah.
By like it's not even close, but also you got to think Force
Yeah.
Awakens. So actually,
Was
Last
the
Jedi, you're
return.
right. I was gonna try to prove you wrong, Brock, on the fans, but you're right. Rotten Tomatoes fan score is 56%. That's very
Wow.
down. But that, I mean, like
Still.
you could see that and be like, you could no, but you said down the middle, and you can't get much more down the middle than
Yeah.
56%. Like, which sounds negative, but that's half, which is exact. Like, it
Yeah.
kind of makes sense when you think of it. Like, yeah, it is that kind of movie. I think it's also the kind of movie for me that makes you. I know it's not Andrew, but it makes you enjoy. Like Rise of Skywalker gets to be that popcorn flick because of the miserableness that you get throughout this movie. Like I always say, like The Force Awakens is your donut, and then this one is your vegetables, and then the Rise of Skywalker is that like big steak that you can't finish and you have a half an hour to, and you have to eat the sides with it. That's what I compare all of. Like that's what these are, and you have to get through one to get to the other, and I think it's the perfect middle chapter for these ones, of course. And we're going to do top 5 moments from the movie coming up. I want to actually watch our top 5 now versus our top 5.
Good call.
Yeah, I won't be able to because my internet doesn't exist here, but we'll do it after. But Snoke dying halfway through the movie, I almost cheer. And I've said this. I was like, I didn't cheer because I don't do that, but I was like, awesome, like good, like you should kill him. Like this is the right move here. I thought it was dumb from the get-go that we knew nothing about Snoke, and people are like, well, we didn't know about Palpatine. It's completely different because one is the first movie that we ever got in the series, and one is 40 years later. You know, you have to, like, where has this character been for the last 40 years? Why? Like, and that's not the fault of this movie. That's the fault of the movie that came before it, which is also the fault of this movie because, anyway. But I love that moment when they kill Snoke. I'm like, yeah, that's what you should do. Kill this guy. Like, you did it. Fantastic. Amazing. And then, obviously, the Praetorian Guard scene is probably my favorite scene in all of the sequels. And it's probably top 5 in Star Wars for me. I'd have to really think about it because there's so many good movies, there's so many good moments in the Star Wars movies. Like, you know, it's hard to come up with all of them. But Praetorian Guard is brilliant, and they looked fantastic. And part of my concern, because before the movie came out, you probably remember, Brock, but I love the design of these guards. I bought like a T-shirt with them, and even Andrew, you got me that. You got me the toy, that figure. Then you got me the Funko. And my sister got me. Like I have all these figures. Then the movie comes. I'm like, oh God, are they just gonna stand against a wall for 4 hours? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they didn't. They had a scene, and like Knights of Ren, they sucked balls. Like they did nothing, and like at least these guards did something, even though it was brief. But it made so much sense in their connection with Snoke. Then when Snoke dies, they're like, "Well, this is our job now." Like I was like, "Yeah, this is great," and I thought that almost better than every other because the Royal Guards in Return of the Jedi are some of my favorite. But who cares about them? Like they just show up, they're just like, "Hey, we're here, guys," you know. So I love that. I was so happy, and I felt like I got my money's worth off the merchandise after I saw it, and I love that moment. Was there anything that stood out to you guys that you were like what was like your least, the moments that you're like, and was there anything like maybe after Force Awakens specifically that this movie didn't deal with that you were a little bit disappointed to? Andrew, I'll start with you.
Oh, that's a good question. I was disappointed with probably the visual way that they handled Leia using the Force to save herself. Because I like the fact that happened. I know a lot of people didn't. I think it's cool that she could do that. But, I mean, when it happened in the theater, the 2 or 3 times I went to the theater, every time it happened, the theater laughed, right? It was supposed to be this powerful moment, and every time it happens, everybody's just like, because it looks cheesy as hell. And Star Wars is cheesy as hell, and that's part of the reason why we love it. We don't like dry nachos. We like nachos with cheese on top. But that moment could have been, should have been dealt with a bit more respectfully, seriously. I don't like using seriously because it's like, it's just a fun series. But I think that they could have given that the proper weight if it was more of a thing where she's like unconscious, but you know, she's unconsciously moving her hand and like stuff is surrounding her and pushing her instead of the whole Wicked Witch of the West thing that we got of her just floating through space.
Mary Poppins.
The Leia Poppins bit. So that was probably one thing that that got a little bit of a cringe out of me in that theater. I don't know. Other than that, I was pretty much riding high. Brock, what about you?
Mine, I've said this before. The funniest part of that movie is when Finn and Rose are explaining their plan to Poe, and they're like, "We're gonna sneak on the ship, and then we'll turn it off, and then you won't be able to find this." And then, like, as they're saying this, you see like the dreadnought, and then you see the rebel ship that they're on. And he's like, "Boink!" It like literally makes that noise. It's like, and that's what always made me think. It's like perhaps this is Rian Johnson saying like these little hijinks, like. Yeah, we're gonna hide in plain sight and go into the bee's nest and then turn the thing off. It's like, yes, that worked in New Hope, but I don't think it's gonna work every time. It's like, oh, that guy that we met in a dark prison, he betrayed us. What? Like, it's just like, I feel like he was trying to say, like, there's more to Star Wars than this, and we can't keep doing this. Unfortunately, you have to have another movie or another director that follows that suit, right? So it's like,
right.
I mean, we can crap on J.J. Abrams all we want. Who knows what I mean, I guess we technically know what Colin Trevorrow was going to
do. But you don't know how it would have turned out. That's the
exactly.
You have a script for script. But and the thing is with the Rise of Skywalker is people crap on it, but it really feels like he was just continuing what he was doing in Force Awakens.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, you know, there's nothing you can say it contradicts this movie. I'll listen to your argument there, but I don't think it contradicts Force Awakens.
No, it doesn't.
At all. So I'm not. Yeah. So that's mine. It's like, well, I don't know. Like this, whose fault is this? Like you know, I don't know. For me, I've said this before. Like the humor, a lot of the humor falls flat for me. But the thing that annoys me the most is not the movie's fault. It's the morons going to see the movie when the holdo maneuver happens and the sound goes silent and people complained about it afterwards, thinking that the theater sound went off. No, that's called sound design, you morons. That it might also be my favorite thing in the movie because I'm laughing at it. But that always, it's like how moronic people are when they go see movies and, you know, oh, there's no sound. Yes, it blipped out right when it should have.
Oh, like that's one problem I had watching this movie again. It's like, we know what Rise of Skywalker is going to do. We know that like Snoke is going to be revealed as a clone or something, though we never get a full explanation out of it. I was like, it was me all along. It was Agatha all along. Like, and then now we have the shows where they kind of hint at that as well. And you're like, that's where you kind of, it takes you out of it where you're like, this is an idea that's a cool, like, don't get me wrong, Snoke as some kind of puppet from Palpatine's not a bad idea, but like you don't really get full explanation, and it's like it kind of does take you out of it. But like, who knows? I mean, that's the beauty of Star Wars. You do something in the background, they're like, oh, let's make a prequel out of it. Or like the Knights of Ren we mentioned earlier. That's something they did in the comics that didn't really, it was interesting, but nothing really came of it. Though they put it in the Lego movie. But that was because in the first one, he says, that's why I made you in charge of the Knights of Ren. You're like, what is that? So you wanted to know more.
And that's the thing, though, is like we talk about how J.J. Abrams doesn't care about Rian Johnson, but does Rian Johnson care about the J.J. Abrams? Because there's so much stuff in the Force Awakens that you guys know, like Maz Kanata. I can't stand Maz Kanata. Probably my least favorite character in Star Wars. Like, she's old and wise and knows everything in the Force Awakens. Then in the second one, she has a jetpack and wants to screw Chewie. Like, it's like, I can't figure out what's going on with this character. Like, it's like Rian Johnson, like, I just don't think they were maybe the right duo to make one solid story with, because they're so different. And I don't even think you could complain about one. Like, like Looper is such a phenomenal film, probably better than Super 8, arguably, but Super 8 is a phenomenal film with a weak ending. Like, they're great they are great directors, but one I think is more in tune with emotional stakes, and one is more in tune with lens flares.
Maybe they need to team up and make a movie called Looper 8.
There's
figure out how they can.
There was plenty of lens flares in Last Jedi. Actually, like, like, wait, this is not JJ. So.
lens flares look nice. I don't care what anyone.
Oh yeah.
Says. I mean, he did overdo it in Star Trek too, though. He did overdo it.
Yeah, Star Trek got kind of crazy.
Yeah. Star Trek, I was like, somebody wash the lens. Like, we need a wipe on there. This is it got a little bit nuts, but yeah, they are nice. People, you can mock them all you want. They are nice. Look, Last Jedi though, obviously the fan reaction was moot. But before he was also going to get that trilogy that will come up later on in the odds. Obviously, talking about it. Did you guys like? Because for me, after Force Awakens, and Andrew, I talked to you a lot about this off the show. It was like one thing that annoyed me with that movie was just all the questions that are raised, and you were always like, "Oh yeah, but the next one, you're gonna get the answer on the next one." Were there any questions raised in this one that Abrams? And I'm not like he spun something a different way, but anything in this one that doesn't get resolved going forward that you're like you think maybe we might get in one of these series or a book or something?
Oh yeah, I think there's a good handful of those. And that question thing, you're right. That was something that I remember after Force Awakens, because I'm known like amongst people that know me as a Star Wars guy. After Force Awakens came out, I became like a punching bag of like, this movie's stupid. What's this? We don't know who Rey is. We don't know who Snoke is. And I had to constantly keep saying like, I don't know either. That's the point. It's a trilogy. Let's wait for the trilogy. And then, if there's still unanswered questions, then you can call it stupid, whatever. And then, of course, after the trilogy, there was a lot where, I look back and I think some of those people were right. Like that was a poorly made decision because that never came to anything. But after seeing episode 9-0, I think that some of the things moving forward that it's in Star Wars' best interest as a brand to elaborate on and flesh out. And I think that's something that's going to be put into the hands of people like Filoni and Favreau because they're good at that. See Clone Wars is stuff like Snoke, because we know the cloning stuff in Mandalorian is going to be a thing. So that seems like the yellow brick road is pointing in that direction. The Knights of Ren have been introduced in the comics in neat ways. You're right, Brock. They brought them into that one Kylo Ren comic, and that was kind of like, yeah, I still don't care. But they've been throwing them into the whole Crimson Dawn storyline that's been going on through all the main series. They were, not to spoil too much, but they were friends. They were palling around with Kira for a little while. So you get to know them a lot more. And I think that we're also going to follow up on a lot of, I hope anyway, just a lot of the general big thing that was missing from this final trilogy, which is what is the galaxy in the era of the New Republic? The world building of that. What is this galaxy that we see 2 seconds of when we see Hosnian Prime? Like, how does that galaxy work? What are the people like? Do they like being in the New Republic? Do they hate it? How does the civilian population at large view the First Order, and how do they view Leia and the New Republic? Because that's something we never see. So I feel like that's a fleshing out that, as a world builder fan, I want to see the most of, and I think we're going to get that somewhere.
Yeah, like absolutely. I mean, even like it or not, Rise of Skywalker did the exact same thing where you're like, specifically for me, it's like Lando and Luke went on a fun adventure at some point. I'm like, yeah, tell me more about that. Like, that's cool. So it's like, yeah, you're totally right. Like and in like 5 to 10 years, we're going to get something that just like, boom, explains all. I don't know. I guess Mandalorian's between the sequels and the prequels, the original trilogy. Like, they're not really seeming to attack any of that era yet, outside of maybe in comics and maybe in books.
They're too early in the Mandalorian. That's why, like the timeline, they're too they're too close to the originals. Yeah.
Oh, so you think it'll actually meet up with the sequels at some point?
I think we're gonna. Well, not directly, but I think we're going to the First Order. I think the First Order for sure. I think we're going to see what's going on a little bit more. But we might not get like in Mandalorian. I don't know how much we're going to get into the political stuff. Because of how the prequels were viewed. They might do that. And they might do like a new animated show, like a Clone Wars style show that takes place. That'll do it. But live action, I don't know if Disney wants to go down that route.
Yeah, and like we get the vibe that like perhaps the Mandalorian, like Mandalore or whatever, like Crimson Dawn. What was the moon? Crescent Dawn or something like that. For the Mandalorians, like their actual planet.
Concord Dawn.
Concord Dawn. Thank you. Yeah. Like, I get the vibe from the ending of Book of Boba Fett with this like talk of like what Mandalore was. It's like, oh, maybe we will see the recreation of the Mandalorians, and then I guess you can. There's a way to go around that without having the why were there mention of Mandalorians in the sequels? I'm sure there's a way of doing it, but it's like it does kind of like beg a question because it's like I feel like if Mandalore became a power again, they would be someone that would be involved in some way. I could be wrong, but it's my point of bringing this question up at all is just like, well, we're done the trilogy now. It's like the sequel, the second movie in that trilogy is 5 years old now. Why aren't we? You're not going to return to it. None of the cast really wants to return to Star Wars. Let's just do it in books and comics and video games, whatever. But like, I wonder if like that will ever happen. I think it's a move they should do. Maybe I'm wrong.
Make an animated series like Clone Wars, man. That is so good at world building. Just do another one set in that era in the New Republic. I am there.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't seen Tales of the Jedi yet. I promise I will, but I haven't. But you guys both are big fans of it. Like, why not do like a bunch of minis like that to flesh out those stories too? Like, there's so many possibilities.
There's a lot they can do, and it's all there. It's all there on the. I'm sure there's 200 actors out there like who are like, I'm a voice actor and I can do a really good Daisy Ridley impression. Good, you're hired, right? So it's like all the resources are there for them. They just have to write it.
I think what's his name? Oscar Isaac said that he was willing to come back now to Star Wars.
Cool.
I think he got some of that Marvel money, and he's like, oh, we're good. Let's roll.
I can be the main guy.
It's probably like, hell, I'll play Apocalypse again. Why not? Throw that stupid makeup on me. Let's go.
Like you said, you would do that too. You know, I feel like, you throw them enough money, you offer them a decent enough script, they'll do it. Like, not to sound like a jerk, but really, what are any of those actors really doing?
Yeah.
Right, like True. you throw them a paycheck and you promise them executive producer credit and whatever, they'll be all in. Like, and I think we're going to get more. We haven't never told me the odds coming up, but I think we're going to get more. I think they're all going to come back on some level, and it's going to be a good time. And I think Canto Bite, like it or not, it got mentioned in Andor. It exists. Everything in these movies exists, and there's a way to utilize them in ways that can make even the haters love them as well. And it's all part of Star Wars, man.
I like Canto Bite. I want to go back there.
How dare you? Canto Bite would have been better with an
go to Dubrovnik, the actual place.
I want to talk about the beginning of this movie because for 2 years we were like, "Oh, Rey got the lightsaber. She's going to drop it off. What's going to happen?" And there's a lot of theories going around. And of course, what ended up happening was Luke rejects the saber, which is a poignant moment for me. Is one that I still watching it to this day. I think it was executed not so great, a little poorly executed. I thought it was played up a little bit too comedic for myself. I think it just the way like she hands it to him, he looks at it, the music swells, and he Looney Tunes it behind him. It's a little bit goofy, and I think, and I've said this forever, and every time I watch it, it doesn't bother me like at all anymore. But as much as every time I watch it, I'm like, this is the moment you lost everybody. Like the first shot of the damn movie is when they lost those 44% on Rotten Tomatoes. Because if you just handle that a little bit, he doesn't have to take it. You handle that a little bit different, they might be a little bit more. They might agree a little bit more to go along on this ride with you. But because of the way that moment was treated, I think that's what you lost a lot of people. I know you guys are going to disagree, and that's fine. I can remove any of you from this conversation. but no, but honestly, but I want to know what your opinions of that 5 years later now. Like for me, it doesn't bother me as much. I'm just like every time I watch it, I'm like, this is when you've lost. Like a lot of the people is in this moment, and like I said, I think what happens is great. It's just the way it was handled. Andrew,
I agree with that 100%. I like that he threw it over. Like I like that he rejected it. I like that about the movie, that's the theme of it. You're right. It was done in an almost like kind of way. And you could probably have done that a little more tactfully and with a little bit more class. When that happened though, you're right. That was a very early scene in the movie. And that was the sobering Rian Johnson moment, letting the people watching know, like, hey, you, this is what this movie's going to be.
Yeah.
There you go. And you're right. That's when a lot of people were like, wait a minute, this isn't the classic hero's journey anymore. What's going on? But I feel like that was the thesis to this whole essay that is The Last Jedi. So you needed it there. And of course, it's going to lose people, but you need it at the beginning to establish what this is. Because if it had happened way, way later, and then you get like a jarring third act twist that the movie is this kind of movie, I think that would have been received much worse.
Yeah, it goes along with what I was saying, where like Rian Johnson's like this, like, no, let's switch this up, and it's like, yeah, it is bizarre. I feel like Mark Hamill has said, oh, that was not my idea, and I told him not to do this, but like that whole vibe, it just feels like Mark Hamill, like not Luke Skywalker the character, just Mark Hamill being Mark Hamill, right? Like, but like. It's Luke Skywalker. He's like the good guy. But something has happened between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens. It's all fallen apart. And we know this. We know entering that, like, his Jedi school did not work out. So, like, yes, he could have maybe, like, not taken it or taken it, looked at it, put it on the rock, and then walked away. I think he was just like, no, let's try something different by, like, oh, you expected this? Psych! It's like, he throws it over his shoulder, and it's like, in an instant, you're like, what the heck, man? It's like, you're mad. You should get, like, upset. Maybe Rian Johnson didn't want you to get upset with him, but, like, get upset with Luke. It's like, what are you doing? You saved the galaxy. Why are you turning your back? But we learn, like, I think this time, this viewing was like, yeah, like, he almost looked like he almost was going to kill Ben because he's like, that's evil. I don't know how to deal with it. And it's like, oh, well, like a Jedi like finds a way. You just deal with it. You don't just smash it. That's the way of evil. Like, so he's just like, I can't believe it. And it works when you think about it, because like, there is no Jedi Order. There is no, he's talked to a goblin and a ghost for like 3 movies. He's got, and yes, he does have the Jedi text, which I wish had been bigger in Return of the Rise of Skywalker. But it's just like, yeah, no, like Luke Skywalker's just figuring it out, like, and unfortunately, he never gets to a point where he realizes. I guess Yoda kind of says to him, like, I totally forgot Yoda was in this movie, and I was like, yes, this is awesome. So, anyways, what were we talking about?
Luke the Mandalorian. Yeah, no, I agree with everything. I just think the music swells and he tosses it like a Looney Tunes. Like, that's for me is like just the execution. There's a few execution problems I have on it. I just wrote my top 5 by the way. My top 5. This movie has a lot of great moments.
Yes.
And it has Yoda, like Brock said, which was the worst kept secret on the planet because Frank Oz, I think he said he wasn't in the movie. He was like, what? No one asked you, Frank. No one asked you. He's like, no, I'm not in The Last Jedi. Nobody even questioned you on it. We're asking you about Fozzie Bear. Can you return? Because I hate the new Fozzie voice, guys. I can't handle Fozzie and Miss Piggy's voice anymore. They're just like, every time I watch something, I'm like, no, you've lost me. Moving on. Kermit's voice, though, it's just, they need to stop changing it every 20 years. I mean, Jim Henson is one thing, but they're changing it now for the sake of changing it. Like, where are you? The Last Jedi. You guys want to go to Never Tell Me the Odds? Anything else you want to say about The Last Jedi? Like, is there anything that you guys are like, oh, I really wanted to bring up how much Ben Solo had great hair in this movie?
Oh, he always has great hair.
It's phenomenal hair.
Even when he takes off the helmet, his hair is just like...
Oh, porgs. Everybody likes porgs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Porgs are fun.
They're so good. They're not. Remember before we were comparing them to Ewoks. They're nothing. They can't be compared to Ewoks. Like they're more like Ewoks like do things, and porgs are like I want one as a pet.
I think one last thing that always gets overlooked about Last Jedi because it's so small, but I think that Rey's costume, particularly the costume when she goes and fights Snoke, that is like one of the coolest costumes in all of Star Wars. Just the look that Rey has is just it's solid.
Yeah, they did a good job on that. I think, the costume and the poncho. She wears a poncho also.
That's right. She does wear a poncho.
And that's why she should have been a Skywalker from the start, because she wore a poncho. Everyone knows Skywalkers wear ponchos.
So do
Yeah.
Quaterneros, though.
Successfully navigating an asteroid field is approximately 3,720 to 1.
Never tell me the odds.
Did
Never
that video
tell
even
me.
play?
Yeah, I
No.
did. Never tell me the odds. Brought to you and me and I guess Andrew by
Boo.
patreon.com/Rebel Scum podcast. If you like what we do and you want to support what we do and you want to continue to hear us talk about why we think Rise of Skywalker is not as good as The Last Jedi, well, go on down to patreon.com/Rebel Scum podcast and become one of the many wonderful people that we shout out every episode, them being Heidi Feder, executive producer, Barry Brophy, Dennis Allen, Randy Kenobi, Mary Kristen Aton, Jeff Wilson, Phil Staniforth, Rez, Scott D, Josh Price,
Matt W, Frank Perkins, Neil Lowry, Cosmic Girl 02, Gleek Play 1, Disney Desi, Charlotte, Kayla Davis, Dale Erdman, Girls with Sabers, and the Den of Nerds. And we should point out that Andrew Fantasia is not one of our Patreon because he has been banned from our Patreon.
That's right. I was kindly asked to leave. I was not given a discount. I was just nudged out the door.
He doesn't even know. We shouldn't have brought it up. He thinks that he's paying everyone. By the way, we should point out that on January 1st at 12 p.m. Eastern, our ranking Star Wars list is in. It's me, Brock, and Patreon Disney Desi. We do it. Andrew was not available because he was recording one of his 17 ranking Marvel films that day. But it is January 1st, 12 p.m. Eastern on the channel. Check it out. I think, Brock, I think I've said this before. I think this is the one list that people, Andrew, has changed a little bit since you said about it. It's the list that I think is the least controversial we've ever put together.
That's interesting. Well, you said you polled like 250 people or something ridiculous.
46.
That's a lot.
Same number.
That's a lot. And I think the same day, I forget what time. I think at 5 p.m. ranking the MCU goes up.
Nice.
And that will take you, like, if you start watching it that night, you will end it by next New Year's Eve.
Exactly.
Because there's so many Marvel movies.
I only polled 7 people. It was kind of a low polling year, but
there's a lot of movies, and
yes.
I ruined the list though because I ranked something so low. I ruined the list. That's what you told me.
That's right. You ranked one movie low enough, or you gave something else a super high score or something, but basically you made one movie lose on a technicality to another that it shouldn't have. And Brock, I when I got all the things together, I thought it was really funny that you, James, and Rob had Captain America 1 on the exact same
Oh,
position.
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's the thing about that list is there's so many titles, and now you've added the TV shows where it's just like, okay, which one do you love the most and which one do you hate the least or hate the most, and then put everything in between.
That's all you can do. That's all you can do.
I thought Werewolf by Night was like I haven't seen a lot of the new Marvel stuff, but I thought Werewolf by Night was fantastic, by the way. Just saying.
It really was.
I haven't seen I saw 2 episodes of She-Hulk. I gotta finish that. I was kind of enjoying it. I was just like,
I liked it.
We had a kid the next day, so I haven't gone back to watch it.
Yeah.
I had a kid.
Andor was tough, man. The first three weeks of Andor, I was like, stop crying. I'm trying to watch it.
Shut up, yo.
Never Tell Me the Odds. Thank you so much to our Patreon supporters, minus Andrew Fantasia, for all of your support. Here we go. Never Tell Me the Odds. The first episode 10 will be announced by episode 10 will be announced by the end of 2023. Now, this is based on nothing, guys. This is just a plain old Never Tell Me the Odds. There's no hint that there's going to be an episode 10. It's just for fun. But Brock, by the end of 2023, will we get an announcement of episode X?
Any sort of an announcement, not like an actual like it's going to be out on this day, or there's just like
no, but it has to be like
talk
Lucasfilm,
of movies.
Disney. It can't be like Joe Blow announces it. It has to be Disney. Lucasfilm has confirmed. Like
Oh
Hollywood
yeah. But they're going to say we are making a Star Wars movie.
No, episode 10 specifically.
I'm gonna go 75% because I think like they gotta make movies, man. Like, come on now,
Andrew.
I'm gonna go lower than 75. I'm gonna say let's say because it's 2023, I'm going to say 23%.
Wow, you're a real piece of garbage.
It's definitely something that, I mean, we all know Disney wants to do it. And I remember talking about this before years ago, like how easy it would be to sell that idea to a crowd, whether it's at like a celebration or D23 or whatever, because all you would need to do is have a poster of a black starfield with the yellow X, and you could say no words, and the audience knows exactly what that means, and they'll go ballistic. I think Disney's gonna play a long game. I think they're gonna. This is just what I would do, so I'm just imprinting myself onto Bob Iger here, but I would wait like a decade or so until the idea of legacy sequels loses its heat, because they're like the hot thing, and then once it's faded away, bring that idea back with a 10, and by that time the actors will have had time to do other stuff, and then maybe they'll be like, yeah, we'll come back to Star Wars. I miss it now. Because I guarantee you, I don't think Daisy and John Boyega miss it. I don't think they miss all the negativity and all the crazy stuff that's happened to them, because people were so rude to them on social media. So give them that time and let it happen after a little bit.
I don't hate that idea.
I don't disagree with it, but I think like just there's nothing wrong with just making your story, your movies all one continuous thread, right? Isn't that what everybody loves about Fast and Furious? It's like, you know,
No.
they're all like
No.
the same stupid.
They like it because it's about family.
But they're all the same story. But they're all the same story. You know what I mean? And like even Marvel, like they're different, but they're all the same story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's all going to come together at some point. So I just feel like if you do like your Rogue Squadron, like what the hell is the point? I just don't understand what the hell. I don't understand what the point of these like one-off movies are for Star Wars. Like we have the shows now. So like you have to give me something in the theater that's going to make me get out of my house and pay money to go see it in the theater when I'm paying you to watch these things on Disney Plus.
That's a good point.
That's so. I think I'm gonna go 41% because I think we're gonna get a movie announcement. I don't think it'll be 10. I think if you don't name it 10, I think Rogue One did really well. Solo didn't. Maybe you get somewhere in the middle of those. Maybe they're banking on there hasn't been a Star Wars movie in the theater for so long that people will go see anything that says Star Wars on it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just think if you make it part of an episodic, like if you make it part of this journey, and I'm not saying it has to be directly related to Rey, Finn, Poe, whatever. Like you could just call it 10 and be like the new Star Wars, which is what I thought they should have done with 7, right? It's like don't worry about the old people. I don't care, man. They had their time. I'm done. They're good. Like I want to see Rey, Finn, and Poe now. Like if you just take like here's some new characters, blah blah. And then all of a sudden, oh, this is episode 10. It's still in the same galaxy and the same timeline going forward. Then I'm fine. I'm all in on it. What's the story, man? But I don't know. I don't think they're going to do it. I think we're going to get some random movie, and like Oscar Isaac will cameo because he can.
Well, think of the big waves they could make if they announce a movie and it's totally random, and they're like, "Listen, this is. You just have to go watch it so that you see what it's about, and don't worry, it's just its own thing." And then you go watch it. And you start off with a crawl that says episode 13.
Yeah.
Right? Think of the waves that would make, because right away, you're one sentence in and the audience is like, oh, shit. Right? So that's another option, is to secretly carry it on.
Yeah.
And then you force people to go see it who weren't going to go see it because they're like, well, now I got to know what this episode 13 is.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, now I got to find out what 10, 11, 12 are. Yeah, that's a
bingo.
Brilliant idea that will never happen. It's never happen. I love it though. It's a great idea. Our next odd, Andrew, I'll start with you. Andor season 2 will be better than season 1. Will Andor season 2 be better than season 1? It's so subjective that it's hard to do it. But in your personal opinion.
My personal opinion, I'm going to go full Brock. I think at the end of season 2, I feel like I will look at it and say I liked it even better than season 1. But I think the vast consensus among fans is I think they'll be split down the middle because season 1 was such a shock to the system, right? And we didn't expect what we ended up getting. So by season 2, we're going to expect it. And when people start expecting things, people get more critical. So I think you're going to see a lot more people on the fence about season 2.
True, Brock.
I'm gonna go 80%. It's like just take what you did and just amplify it. And it's like it's good. It's good. Like the story itself is pretty simple when you think about it. It's just like, oh, the Empire is no good. And it's like you think you can get around it, but you can't. So just like it's a fist, right? It's like trying to go up a hill, push a boulder up a hill, and inevitably it comes back on you. It's like because you're not Luke Skywalker, therefore you will suffer. So that's it, and just have cool characters and like make sure that Stellan Skarsgård will be in this season. The end. Thank you.
I want a T-shirt that just says, "Oh, the Empire's no good."
The Empire is no good.
No good. I think the Empire is good, and I think you're all. I'm going to go 50. I'm going to go 51%. I think I'm curious. I just, you know what, my concern is it was meant to be 5 seasons. Now they dwindled it down to 2. It's like, are you going to just shove too much in there? But based on season 1, I don't think so. It's going to be 12 episodes again, I believe. So I'm just really excited to see what we get in this season. Obviously, you know, K2SO is making his grand appearance. I think, you know, you got to think so. It's going to end 5 days before it. Yeah, and it's just the arcs, right? Like these 3-episode arcs. How exciting are they going to be? And our final odd today, Brock, I'm going to start with you on this one. Will Rian Johnson's trilogy happen? Are we going to get RJ's trilogy, his Star Wars trilogy? Is it coming, Brock?
I hope so. Like
you can hope all you want.
While I was waiting for this question to come up, I looked up to see what Glass Onion is doing on Rotten Tomatoes. It's 93 critics and 93 audience, which, you know, can quickly change, but it's like
how many votes for both?
Oh, that's a good question. 320 reviews, 500 plus verified ratings.
Right, that's all right. Because I hate it when, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but you'll get like, this movie has a 97% score on Rotten Tomatoes from 11 votes.
Yeah. Well, that's why I like hesitated because you know that could change, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it like
300? But over 300 is a good amount.
Yeah. And it is certified fresh. It can, is it as long as it's over 90%, it's become certified fresh or something like that. But anyways, like
the amount of critics.
I don't see why they won't. Like, also, I would like to see Kevin Feige movie. They talked about that too. So let's see. But I think I've been a big Rian Johnson fan, and like, it's funny. I like Glass Onion more than I like Knives Out, but I like they're both good films. It's just like I was more intrigued by Glass Onion, and it's just like just something about the way he directs. This looks great and sound and like and he writes and directs. So it's like I don't know, none of that matters, but like it's nice to know like the director's like all in on this. You know, it's like Kevin Smith. It's like he writes and directs a lot of his stuff, so it's like he's all in, and they have a certain way. So I don't know. I think it'd be a mistake not to let him do a trilogy, but like they don't seem to care about movies. So, did I give a rating? I'm gonna go 65% because it's like who knows. If it's not Filoni, it doesn't seem to happen.
Yeah,
that's true. Andrew?
Oh man, this is tough. Is he supposed to his contract with Netflix? Is it up to Knives Out 3 or is there supposed to be Knives Out 4?
I think it's 2 and 3.
2 and 3. All right. So maybe he'll be a free agent in 3 years after Glass Onion 2 Electric Blassaloo comes out, and then he just puts that behind him. Then maybe he'll want to return to the world of Star Wars. I think he wants to do it. I think he genuinely wants to go back to that world. Whether Disney is, like you said, Brock, whether Disney cares enough to keep making movies and to take that risk because they know a lot of fans weren't happy, and trying to please everybody has seemed like their goal after Last Jedi. So let's go 40%, because I think at the end of the day, it's their call, not Ryan's.
Yeah, I'm going to go 11% on this one. I'm with you guys. If you did it, that'd be great. I would totally watch it. I think you do 3 great Star Wars movies, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's ever going to be officially canceled. It's just going to be one of those things that every time, just so that it can always seem amicable between the two of them, Lucasfilm and Rian Johnson. And I think Kathleen Kennedy, let's say she leaves her post in the summer, like all these rumors are coming. Wait. Check the board.
Oh,
Fired. But let's just say, like, the rumors are true and she decides to step down, or even if not true and she does step down, is the James Gunn taking over going to want anything to do with Ryan Johnson, you know?
Exactly
So there's a
what I
lot
was
of
thinking.
variables in it. Yeah, so I think it's going to be 11% on. Like, for me, it's 11%, and that's not saying I don't want it. Like I said, I do, but I just think it's been 5 years. It's been over 5 years since they announced this trilogy. I'm sure he hasn't even thought about it. You know, he's got like Knives Out, like, and this is his, and the thing with Knives Out is you can't complain about it because it's his original thing. Like, he can do whatever the hell he wants with it. It's his thing, right? So Star Wars, you go, even though they did that with George Lucas, you can always be like, Star Wars. So I think, you know, and honestly, looking back on it, why would he want to deal with these BS fans again? Like, why? Sure, he gets a lot of love. A lot of it's patronizing, but a lot of it's love. But like the hate that he got, like, why? Why would you want to ever do that to yourself again? I don't know. That 11% for me. And if it happens, I will, you know, I'll eat a birthday cake or something happily. But I just like, why would you do it? All right, Brock, you got some news for us?
Yeah, let's do the news.
Wait till I get to the graphic. Hollow news. I have to be quiet because the baby's singing. Hollow news. Da 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 da. Hollow news. Da da da. Hollow da 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 da. Okay, my mic's off. Da 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 da. Hollow. I should have done a Christmas hollow news last.
All the news you need to know right now. Hey, ever heard of Mars? Well, guess what? They found a lightsaber on it. Star Wars fan thought they found proof that there was another Jedi out there after spotting a lightsaber on Mars in a new picture released by NASA. The image in question shows a thin metal tube with a thick end, which could be a handle, and a thinner side, where the concentrated energy beam could erupt from, in theory. It's even big enough to house a kyber crystal, so we can see where the Star Wars fans are coming from. But the space agency insists that the image isn't anything from science fiction. In a statement, it has been confirmed that the item is a container dropped by the Perseverance rover, and it contains rocks that will send back to Earth. Kyber crystals are rocks. Despite its suspicious appearance, NASA insists the mysterious article is actually a titanium tube. Last Wednesday, the U.S. Space Agency's Perseverance rover placed a tube there, ready for it to be taken back to Earth on a small spacecraft. And step aside, Christmas. We're already moving on to the next gift-giving holiday with the 2022 collection of Valentine's Day Star Wars Funko Pops. This year's Kylo Ren, Rey, BB-8, and Leia Pops come in pink with a box of heart-shaped chocolates. Each pop also includes a sweet message written on the base. As far as we can tell, the message reads, Kylo Ren, you are not alone. BB-8, will you be mine? Rey, you're my ray of hope. And Leia, it just says unclear. Pre-orders for the 2020 collection of Valentine's Day Funko Pops are available here at Entertainment Earth for $11.99. So that's entertainmentearth.com. With the release date set for January. Free U.S. shipping on orders $39 and over if you use the code HOLIDAYFREE22 when you pre-order. If you check out that link, if you head over to Entertainment Earth, you can get that all right now or soon. But it doesn't matter because it's Valentine's Day at some point, and this has been your Hollow News.
I always thought those movies needed more pink Kylo Ren.
Yeah. I mean, Jar Jar's kind of pink. He's more of an orange.
I haven't bought a Funko Pop in a bananas long time. I don't even remember what the last one was that I bought.
Probably for the best. It gets overwhelming at points, and you're like, "What? How is this different from my grandmother collecting, like, you know, what are those precious moments?
Precious moments,
or whatever the Hummels was the original gangster of those nephews, so."
And my aunt has those little ceramic red rose tea figurines of like a mother goose and all those.
Yeah. My grandmother had that. Well, yeah. So, anyways, this is where we lose James.
That's right. His internet doesn't like hearing about Funko. Funko's competitor sponsors whatever his internet is, so they turn it off. No, I haven't bought any of those in a long time because I've been I don't know if I ever showed you, Brock, but I've been obsessing over the Marvel United board game.
Oh no, I did not. I've seen that, but I've never actually known anyone that bought it. So
It's not one of those board games where it's just like, you can buy the base game
yeah,
and you'll have fun for like 20 minutes and you're like, okay, I know why I can buy this game at Walmart because it's like a cheap little whatever. And then you see all the expansions they make for it and you're like, wait a minute, I can play as Alpha Flight? Like that's how deep this goes?
Yeah,
and there's more coming, which gets me so excited. They just
Nice.
announced like last week that they have like a new 3rd season of the game coming. And I have so many of I don't even have all of the expansions, but I have so many that the stack is almost as tall as I am of boxes.
Oh my god.
And it is glorious and I'm obsessed with it. I have played it almost 200 times since I got it in April. And it is, you got to try it sometime. Next time we're all together, I'll bring the base games or whatever.
Oh
it's
man,
so much fun.
I'd be into that. Oh, hi James.
I could not take Andrew talking about his game anymore. I said,
Yeah, you've heard way too much of me spouting.
way too much. It's actually really cool though. I will say that.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Top 5.
Top 5.
Top 5 standing by.
Top 5 moments from The Last Jedi. Really want to go back and watch what they were way, way, way back. My number 5, I think it was, it's Finn versus Phasma. Phasma is a character that I don't know if she ever got her due in these movies, but I enjoy that moment. And of course, we also were blessed, Brock, with the "You Were Always Scum"
Rebel Scum
line that we've been saying for 5 years now. So if you're sick of it, suck it up. Andrew, your number 5?
My number 5 is because of something I mentioned earlier. My number 5 is Canto Bight and just the city and the casino and everything, because the Star Wars sequel trilogy was really lacking in like good, juicy world building that Star Wars is usually so good at. But in all those 3 new movies, Canto Bight is the best example of how Star Wars world building should be. There's so much there. So I love it.
But Hosnian Prime. Forgot Hosnian Prime.
Oh, that's right. We got to know so much of Hosnian Prime.
I'm still like that should have. Why is that not Coruscant? I thought it was Coruscant when I first watched it. I was like, wow, he really hates the prequels. Brock, your number 5.
My number 5 is going to be Finn and Rose explaining their plan. Like, I know I ridicule it, but it is a moment where you're like, what? He's like, boink, like legit, like watch the clip. It literally makes like a boink sound. He's like, it's like, yeah. So we just keep running. Like, okay, sick. That was already our plan.
Love it. My number 4 is, minus the jokes, the opening battle sequence, the Paige Turco thing, the bomb, the Poe flying his X-wing. That whole sequence is awesome. What a way to start a movie.
Yeah, you said Paige Turco. I wish April O'Neil was in this movie.
That's my number 4 too. I'll just jump in. Like it's a great part. Like when he's messing with Hux over the comm, it's like, General Hugs? Okay, I'll wait.
I like that
Brock,
stuff.
you number 4? Paige Turco.
Yeah, my number 4 is also that one.
Sorry, Andrew?
Yeah.
My number 4 is fighting in the throne room with the Prates. Because the Prates are all like, what's up? We're red and we're really good fighters and you can't see our faces. And I don't even know if we can see out of these things, but we're not going to tell you that. We're just going to fight you. And Rey and Kylo getting some business done. That was a wonderful fight.
It was. My number 3 is the Holdo maneuver. The Holdo. I just don't like that the sound always, every time I watch it, the sound skips out. So,
always, every single time.
Andrew, number 4?
Number 3, you mean? My number 3? Yeah, my number 3. You're confusing me. My number 3 is also the Holdo maneuver, because I love that scene a lot, and that is just the way everything led to it, all the storylines converging. That's just directing and writing at its finest.
Brock?
My number 3 is going to be probably Leia entering the room when like she's been hurt and or like they think she's still in medical and like Poe's like, Leia, you're here, and she blasts them. It's like, pew. I'm like, yeah.
Pew, pew, pew. We're on 2 now?
Yeah.
I can't keep up. My number 2, Snoke's death. When Snoke goes the way of the dodo, I like it. I like that they did. I'm all for it. I say do that more often. Kill the bad guy. Let us know what's up. That's a plot twist. Brock.
That was Rob's favorite scene, wasn't it?
Rob clapped 3 times.
He stood up.
He stood up. And then he threw 3 tomatoes at the screen. I don't know where he got them, but he threw 3 tomatoes at the screen. Brock, your number 2.
My number 2 is the Praetorian Guard scene where they all fight, and specifically because I like how like Rey can hold herself in the fight, but she's not as practiced as Kylo is. You can really see that. It's like they're both formidable, but like he knows how to use a lightsaber. She's sort of like hack, and just like the luck of the Force has saved me this long. So I like that.
Andrew?
Nice. My number 2 is Yoda giving Luke some more lessons and telling him how the greatest teacher failure is. And we are what they grow beyond. That his whole scene is just beautiful.
But it's not as good as the Praetorian Guard scene. That's my number 1. Brock, what number 2?
My number 2? I just did number 2.
Oh my God, I can't.
We're on number 1.
I can't.
My number 1 is Luke showdown between Luke and Ben Solo, aka Kylo Ren, on Crate. The Battle of Crate in general is just awesome, but like if we're gonna pick a one part, it's like that's really cool because of the reveal that Luke is not actually there, and that's how powerful he is.
Yeah, that's my number 1 too. Luke showing up on Crate and just getting everybody on First Order and Resistance alike, just having everybody's jaws on the floor as they see Luke shows up and find out what he does.
Nerds, the both of you. You're both nerds.
Next episode's our top 5 Paige Turco moments.
Paige Turco. Turquoise.
Well, you know, does she have a name in the movie?
Yeah, like Kylo says like, Paige.
Kylo?
Or sorry, not Kylo. Poe says, like, Paige, you're the last one. Drop your payload. Okay. Yeah.
Because one thing I love about Star Wars is when no one has a name, and then the action figure comes out and they have a name, and then people act like you don't know. Why don't you know that one's name? Like, shut up.
I'm still waiting on Constable Vesuvio to show up. So,
dude, I can't believe they didn't bother throwing him in Rise of Skywalker. You know, like just. But Vesuvio was in, like, that creature was in comics and within Mandalorian or Boba Fett, one of those two. I think he was in one of those two. Yeah, not that character, but that design or whatever. You might as well. You paid for the design. You got to use it at this point, right?
Yeah.
Throw them in. Every cantina will have a Zuvio and a Hammerhead. Every single one. It's going to do it. All right, this is our episode 269 of the Rebel Scum podcast. We talked The Last Jedi today. I guess it is the most divisive Star Wars film of them all. 56% audience score. Andrew just logged in with 3 burner accounts to vote on it. He actually brought the score down to 51% now.
Yeah, I didn't know how Rotten Tomatoes worked when I did it, so I think I just ended up shooting myself in the foot.
But that's kind of it split right down the middle, because people like to take it like, oh, it's negative, but that just means 5 out of 10 people liked it. That is the definition of it divided the fan base. So but for me, this movie it's going to really 15 years from now is what I'm really curious how this movie is remembered in that amount of time. And 5 years is still fresh. YouTubers are still making all their money off of it. So I'm waiting for like 15 years from now when the dust has really settled. Where does it stand? Is this up there with Empire, or is it down there with Attack of the Clones? Those type of. Andrew just got triggered right now. But like, you know what I mean? Is it up there with Empire, or is this seen as like the weakest of the Star Wars film? Where are people in 15, 20 years gonna view this movie? That's what I say. Anything else you guys want to say?
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it, is look at how the course of time treats it. The course of time has altered the way people think about a lot of the Star Wars stuff. As somebody who would rank Rise of Skywalker as my least favorite, I'm really interested in what the course of time will do to that for me. I hope that stuff comes out that makes me look at Rise of Skywalker in a way where I'm like, wow, this is better than it was 10 years ago. But I want to track with The Last Jedi because I feel like that one is going to change more dramatically.
Yeah. Brock?
I don't know. It's like, see, this is the wild card about Star Wars where like maybe this hasn't happened before, but it's like the more you add to that universe, the more like, oh, I like that. I like that idea. I've said that about Marvel movies too, where it's like, oh, this movie makes the last one way better. Like it's like, oh, Ragnarok. Oh, now I kind of care about the rest of the Thor movies to an extent. And it's like, so maybe down the road another movie will make this better, or I don't know. Like it's time, right? And it's like how we critique the prequels. We're like, that's not really what we wanted. But the people that were younger than us, like, or the people that were just introduced to prequels without knowing the sequels, are like, I like these movies. So who can tell?
Time will tell. It's curious. It's going to be fun. January 1st, ranking Star Wars, and Andrew Fantasia ranks all of the Marvel movies for fun. And tomorrow, there's a Never Tell Me the Odds with Andrew and Heidi. There's one yesterday as well. And then tomorrow, Brock and I talk a little bit about Andor just for fun. And then you guys have a Happy New Year, and then you can watch us when you're hungover in your living room for Star Wars. And that is everything. He's Brock. He's Andrew. I am James. Thank you so much for watching. Give us a like and subscribe, or don't, whatever. We don't care. We do care. Do it for us, please. Brock, you were Andrew. I mean, mostly you were, but Brock, you also were Scum.
Rebel Scum.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.